Welcome to the debate. Today we're tackling a core conflict emerging from discussions around X spaces, the massive gulf between persistent, inherent data recording and, well, the user experience of control and privacy. The central question is highly practical, really. Should users just proceed under the assumption that all digital communication is permanently logged, making the inherent and frankly accessible recording capability of these spaces a non-negotiable reality? Or does the platform have a fundamental obligation to provide full, functional transparency and reliable controls over the conversation's recording status? Exactly. I'll be arguing that we have to accept the reality of persistent recording and maybe even recognize the profound utility derived from this data.
And I'll be championing the absolute necessity of transparency and genuine user agency.
I see why you might think that, but that framing entirely dismisses the imbalance of power at play here.
The conversation we've analyzed makes it painfully clear this isn't just some technical inevitability, it's an ethical problem. It's rooted in, intellectual dishonesty, frankly. When an expert host themselves are privately acknowledging, all spaces are recorded anyways, while the platform simultaneously deploys user interface toggles that suggest control. The user expectation of privacy is, I think, deliberately manufactured and then betrayed. So I argue that reliable transparency is paramount. And if the platform simply cannot honor an opt-out mechanism, it has to remove the mechanism entirely.
That's an interesting point, though I would frame it quite differently. The technical reality of X spaces utterly supersedes any user interface indicator. We are talking about data that is inherently persistent, always there.
Okay.
The recordings exist as raw, unedited audio files, specifically high-quality AAC files, as mentioned, that are stored, immediately. Furthermore, sophisticated users have demonstrated the ability to circumvent the basic API, sometimes referred to cryptically as doing the trick with the horse and getting the ID, which means they can directly access and download these files. We've seen evidence of hosts claiming access to archives containing hundreds of thousands of recorded spaces. This technical truth is, it's immutable. We must remember the platform's commercial objectives are the driving force here. It's about data collection, monetization, development. The expectation that persistent data collection can just be halted by clicking some front-end button is frankly naive given the environment we are operating in.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that the technical reality absolves the platform of responsibility for what looks like deliberate deception. The platform is actively fostering a false sense of security, and we have visible human evidence of the cost of that. We saw clear proof of the psychological burden when a user pleaded during a session, "I don't want this space to be recorded anymore. Can you please stop the recording? I feel more comfortable when the reminder is gone," right? This moment highlights that the general user base operates based on the misleading UI, not on some complex understanding of API exploits or AAC files. Moreover, the platform actively undermines user agency by creating controls that are not only ineffective, but apparently known to destabilize the conversation itself. The source noted that turning recording on and off flubbed the space a little bit, meaning it introduces significant lag, connection drops, or other issues. That suggests the core system resists interruption to the logging process. And most critically, the capacity revealed in these discussions to access and potentially cross-reference deeply personal audio data with sensitive medical records, perhaps analyzing voice metrics to predict something like heart rate failure by cross-referencing with smartwatches. That raises profound ethical questions about informed consent that the current misleading level of transparency absolutely fails to meet.
Okay, let's dive deeper into that first conflict then. The nature of the all spaces are recorded claim versus platform transparency. You focus on the emotional cost, the user feeling, but I focus on what the platform is designed to do. Technical users who do the trick with the horse are essentially performing an end run around the public-facing application to grab the unique file ID directly from the server structure.
Right.
Their existence and their ability to claim vast archives like the 233,000 spaces referenced demonstrates that the data persistence model is the foundational default. This reality cannot, and I believe will not, be contained by simple UI changes aimed at placating the general folk, as you put it. Removing the toggle changes nothing for those who know how to access the files anyway. The technical reality is the ceiling for user privacy on this platform.
I come at it from such a different perspective. If we accept your premise that the data is always logged and accessible via internal IDs, then the platform has an ethical imperative to reflect that truth in its user experience. Maintaining a functional-looking toggle that users rely on that gives them this fleeting sense of security only to be proven false, that is the definition of deceptive design, maybe deceptive marketing. It feels designed to maximize data capture by lowering user inhibitions. It protects the platform's data inventory, not the user's self-determination or privacy. If the data is permanently archived and analyzed, then the platform should simply remove the misleading opt-out mechanism and state clearly, perhaps with a persistent, non-removable banner, this conversation is permanently logged, archived, and analyzed. Anything less is it's intellectual dishonesty.
But isn't the platform maybe trying to strike some kind of balance? By keeping the toggle, they attempt to give hosts the control to share the recording publicly later. The technical reality of logging ensures the data exists regardless, sure. But that logged data holds significant, unavoidable utility. Consider the technical superiority of the data set itself. The source material details how XSpace's data is superior to other audio formats because the system has locked the user who is speaking.
This means the system knows precisely who is talking at any given moment, offering pristine, isolated vocal data streams. Unlike chaotic, open mic platforms, this allows for unparalleled analysis of the person's personality and the nuances of emotional tones. This is essential for training advanced GPT models to reproduce the voice based on the emotional tone and give AI sophisticated personality markers. We are talking about an unparalleled corpus for deep behavioral analysis, and that potential value, well, it explains the permanence of the data collection.
That potential value, however transformative for AI it might seem, it doesn't grant permission to just discard informed consent, especially when we pivot to the ethical foundation of this data usage. Let's move to core debate point 2, the ethical implications of data utility and predictive analytics. The discussion around correlating spaces audio with sensitive data, specifically medical records and indicators like heart rate from smartwatches, that immediately shifts this from, behavioral modeling for AI to invasive predictive surveillance.
Well, surveillance might be strong.
When this type of deeply personal physiological data is being mined and cross-referenced, and the users are operating under the false pretense that they can mitigate risk by toggling a switch, the consent model just collapses entirely. A user might reveal a highly sensitive medical or personal issue, relying on the misleading reassurance that the visible recording reminder is gone, only to have every syllable logged and potentially weaponized for predictive health analysis. How do you justify that utility when the foundation of collection is so clearly deceptive?
I find that framing maybe inadequate, because it seems to confuse capability with intent. The capability for sophisticated analysis exists because the raw data is high quality and identified. The platform's ability to lock the user is a major technical asset. It removes the ambiguity inherent in other voice platforms. If the analysis can predict things like subtle shifts in emotional stress that correlate with health risks, well, that information has both commercial and potentially therapeutic applications. We can't just hobble innovation simply because the raw data required for it also reveals truths about the user. The expectation must be that high-fidelity data will likely be used for high-fidelity analysis. The issue then becomes one of notification, perhaps, not the collection itself.
But notice the pattern of unreliability here, which brings us to core debate point 3, user control and the reliability of technical features. If the platform can't be trusted with simple features, why should we trust it with the most critical one, privacy control? The source material noted persistent instability, such as the transcription or caption features glitching out, with one user noting that captions disappeared for a month at a crucial time.
Yeah,
Technical glitches happen.
Right, but this establishes a clear pattern of technical instability that fundamentally erodes user trust in all platform controls. Furthermore, the very act of toggling the recording feature on or off is known to cause session instability, to F the space, as the source put it, by introducing significant lag or frame drops. This suggests the core persistence mechanism views interruption as an error state, doesn't it? This lack of reliability confirms that users cannot and frankly should not trust the platform to honor their desire for privacy when the technology itself seems biased toward constant logging.
Look, technical glitches and general platform instability are common in a rapidly evolving massive scale service like X. They really shouldn't be confused with some malicious, concerted effort to deceive. The instability associated with toggling recording is likely just a side effect of trying to accommodate conflicting demands. The host's desire for control over public sharing, and the underlying system's imperative for persistent logging and archiving. But let's look at the utility side of that persistence again. The ability of hosts to easily download those raw AAC files is actually a highly valued feature for many who wish to archive or process their own content for external use. It reinforces that the persistence of the digital data is functional, providing utility and archival certainty whether the UI works perfectly or not. The instability might be a bug, the recording itself is a feature.
I agree that the ability to download an AAC file is a feature for the host, but it also unequivocally confirms that the data is always there, regardless of what the user, who is merely a participant, believes about their privacy. When the host, the individual entrusted with running the session, can easily bypass the UI and grab the permanent file, the platform's entire structure feels fundamentally opposed to genuine user agency, at least for participants. We have to hold a platform accountable for the deliberate choice to maintain a known-to-be ineffective control mechanism, seemingly just to maintain the illusion of choice, while simultaneously enabling the collection of data for potentially high-stakes, invasive analytics like correlating voice tones with medical indicators.
Ultimately, what the material reveals, I think, is the unavoidable technical reality of persistent data capture in X spaces. Host discussions confirm this. The files are always created, they are accessible, and the underlying system prioritizes continuous logging. Sophisticated data use, from analyzing emotional tone for AI training to the potential for predictive health diagnostics, is a powerful and perhaps inevitable consequence of maintaining this vast, high-quality audio corpus that knows precisely who is speaking at any given moment.
Means the profound and, I'd say, corrosive misalignment between user expectations demonstrated so clearly by that immediate psychological desire to silence the visible recording reminder and the platform's decision to maintain misleading controls. This isn't just a technical flaw. It feels like a betrayal of user agency. The material highlights a critical lesson, I think, for all platform users. Transparency regarding recording policies is the essential prerequisite for any kind of ethical digital discourse, even when we must grapple with the permanent and persistent nature of digital data itself.